There it is. Now I will pause. Just write it on a piece of paper and scan it up to us. But if you get it to us after each session or just at the end completed, then that's awesome. And we're going to do our best to respond to everyone out there, because we want you to learn as you go through this programming. And I love the business model canvas, so nothing gets me more excited than that. So great question, Ari. That was a good one to start with.
Well, thank you. And Eric, I am so excited for tonight's program. You see, we have two of our four star speakers already with us here today, and they don't have mic privileges yet. So I'll ask Ethan and Ashna just to wave to us, and they'll be listening to our program now, but joining us a little after 6 p.m. But thank you guys. I will formally introduce both of them, before they speak in the program. But Eric, I mean, all of our sessions have been amazing, but tonight's session is going to be special, really focused on retail and marketing, which I know from the applications that the participants have submitted is, I'd say, more than half of the folks who have been participating in this webinar are interested in the retail space. So tonight's really going to be amazing, an amazing opportunity to learn from real industry experts.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. In fact, I was thinking before this, this has actually got to be one of my favorite subjects of the four cohorts, even though they're all extremely important. But understanding customers, I mean, that's the whole point. No matter what business or what license you're going for, no matter what you're doing, if you don't understand what the customers desire, then the chances of success really starts to decline. So that's what today is all about. Today is about your success. So part of that, there we go. Whoops. Is a digital certificate. So this is what we're trying to do for attending all the sessions, and though some might have to attend on video, that's okay. But uploading the business model canvas is really, in letting us go over that and learning with us, we want to provide you a digital certificate so that you can show others that you have actually taken steps to learn, not just about business or business modeling, but to hear from industry leaders about things that are really vital to your success in entering the cannabis markets.
And Eric, we have another question on business model canvas. Question is, can we hand in the canvas at the end of week 4, or do you want the submissions kind of piecemeal after each session? What's your preference, Eric?
To be honest, I'm open to all of them, but at the end of all of the sessions, I would prefer to see a completed BMC anyways. So if you want to turn it in at the very end, that's totally okay, because that's really what the end product will be. However, if you share it now, we'll do our best to try to help steer with any comments what you're working on. So that's a great question.
And the questions are flowing in the first 5 minutes, also about the business model canvas. And I understand this question, but somebody's asking or pointing out that due to non-disclosure agreements, they can't. They don't feel comfortable putting the actual idea on the business model canvas. And is there any alternative way of submitting it? And they write, completely fine. If not, we just wanted to ask.
No, I think that's a fun question. Actually, the business model canvas doesn't ask for your business idea. Little tip. It asks what composes the model that provides the idea or is the backing of your idea. But in fact, you don't need to tell me what you're doing. You do need to say what your customers are, what values you have, but the values, as you're going to learn a little bit today, and that's a great cue, Ari, I'm sure you lined that one up perfectly, is really values are about what is the intrinsic thing that is bettering someone's life. So in fact, has nothing to do with the actual action of your business idea, but the value, the result that your customer gets from it. So hopefully we're going to cover that, which means that really anything you put on a BMC really should not be anything you would need a non-disclosure for, because in fact, it really is so whittled down that unless you tell someone, no one has any idea what the subject matter or business idea is. So let's go straight to this. If you didn't know, this is my primary home. I'm sorry, wait, am I supposed to say secondary home? That's my work. That's the Koffman Incubator. We started in 2017 here in Binghamton. We have 65 startup members. It's amazing. 10 of them international. So a lot of companies come to New York State to work at the Koffman or work with us virtually. And I love to, of course, brag about them since I'm actually that should since 2021. I think that is correct. Our companies collectively have raised $160 million. So absolutely amazing. And it's ended up creating, I think, 450 jobs in New York State because of all this. And there's me, of course. We can move through this one quick. But I love the business model canvas. I speak internationally now about it. I first learned really about the cannabis world about 7 years ago, starting a CBD company, which I've since exited. But I actually started really as a chef, then later became a clinical dietitian. I absolutely loved working as a dietitian in both geriatrics and later HIV and AIDS. I have some patents because, of course, it wasn't good enough to just have a clinical job. I wanted to sit and do studies also. And panning forward to today, I now mentor companies in 10 countries and from New York to Oregon. So I'm very excited about that. But that's not why you're here. We're here because we really want to get into customer segments and value propositions. Because ultimately, we need to know, are you selling something that people are asking for? Think about that messaging, right? Many years ago, we used to make things and then pay salespeople and marketing people and all these other people to sell them. And when they didn't sell, we ended up firing people and companies went out of business. And we quickly learned that that is the wrong approach. What we need to do is listen to what people desire and then create products that offer or give that value to that customer. So we talk about the theater of business. Today, we are talking about the front of the house. This is what customers see. This is what we see. This is the value we get. This is how we buy things. This is our relationship with the company itself. And the three sections here are value propositions, extremely important. That's everything, right? That is, you're either fixing someone's pain or really giving them some sort of gain. Anything other than those two things, you're really not doing something, and people won't gain that sort of emotional attachment to your company. Customer segments, that goes right with it, and that's really the most important thing. Who are you selling to? Because the answer, everybody, is not correct, not even correct by far, because you don't sell to everybody. And in fact, what I want everyone on this webinar to really understand is, I want you to be in a position that when you're applying for your licenses, your customers are waiting for you, right? We don't want to spend time and money getting into something and then have to find our customers. We want them waiting for us by the time we're ready for them. And then channels and relationships. Channels, very easy to understand. How are you selling? Are you selling online only? Are you selling in person? Are you doing a mix? Are you doing subscriptions? There's all sorts of different ways that we might be able to run channels. And then relationships. There's lots of ways that we can actually define this. My definition, or the way that I like to have people work in this section of the business model canvas, is what is keeping customers going back to your store as opposed to somebody else's. One very simple idea or an example of this is the old punch card at the coffee shop, right? Buy 9 coffees, get the 10th free. What does that do? It keeps you going back to that store because once I get that free thing, oh, that's great. That's an advantage. So very cool to try to figure out great ways to keep people coming back to you. There it is. This when I was in the CBD company, everybody wanted to make tincture. They probably still do, right? Everybody wants to make tincture, but why? What if everybody makes the same thing? Then eventually a couple people float to the top and everyone else disappears. So what we have to do is find out what people actually want, or who really wants something specific that we are really orientated or best positioned to provide.
And Eric, let me just jump in with a question. I guess what entrepreneurs often struggle with, myself included, is how do you make these decisions about your product or service? Because, particularly in the cannabis industry, we're operating in such a rapidly evolving environment, and, this type of product at some point may have made sense, and then 3 months later, it didn't make sense at all. How do you think through some of those issues, or how do you kind of adopt a flexible mindset around those things?
Great question. So, there's a misconception that startups are mini corporations. No, a startup is its own thing. And in fact, in a startup, to be quite honest with you, no one is a CEO. There's no CFO, CTOs. Yes, people might have their specialties, and that's why you brought them on the team. But during the phase of being a startup, really your first kind of 5 years or 7 years, it's really, you should be in an experimental mode. And that mentality is so important because the answer to your question, Ari, is we need to be talking to customers. We need to be observing customers. We need to truly understand what customers desire. What is the job that they're trying to do that leads them to want to buy your product? And, I always love to talk to people about, why do people buy coffee on the way to work? Well, they like coffee or they need to wake up. They're trying to wake up. Well, that's actually not correct. Yes, they might be trying to wake up, but why are they trying to wake up? Right? They buy a coffee on the way to work because they were rushing at home and they don't want to be late for work. And so in lieu of a proper wake up period or breakfast or anything, they need the coffee because they don't want to do poorly at work and end up getting firing. They want to do really well at work and succeed. So all those things are why people buy coffee. And it really comes down to truly understanding who our customers are. And part of that is it's understanding that our customers are not there. They don't exist to buy for us, or to buy. That's not really what's up. We exist to provide what they desire. And really, when we start to change our mental state about, oh no, I'm just going to make this, people are going to love it, people are going to buy it. No, we need to listen to what's going on with people. What are their problems? What are the jobs they're trying to get done? Because we need to exist to solve that problem. But it does get a little bit confusing, a little bit more confusing, because there's all sorts of types of customers. There's not just one type of customer out there, right? There's 6 of them. And knowing the difference between these customers is everything, especially in startups, because we need to understand how to talk or how to offer different values to each of these customers. So let's take a quick look at this. I'll go through this quickly, but we have the end user, right? So this is the person, no matter what, this is the person that's using your product. I don't know how they got it or why, whatever. They're the person using it. But then there's someone called the decision maker. So this is the person that's making the decision that the end user should use this product. And of course, there's scenarios that one person could be all of these in a way, but when you're dealing either with a B2B situation or even in a B2C situation, we really need to understand these things. The economic buyer, they're the person that's actually signing the check. that may not be the person that you would think you need to talk to in order to do business. There's influencers, especially in cannabis. This could easily be people that have a very strong social media presence or positions of influence. There's recommenders. So this is someone that works inside an institution with the economic buyer, and they are recommending that the buyer purchase. And then there's always a saboteur out there, and we need to look for that person that's going to sit down and smile with us and, oh yeah, 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 I want to hear your story, it's great. And then like, yeah, no way. Well, you know what, there's even things we can get from them, such as what language to use or not use in similar situations. Each of these people require a different line of thought or conversation or presentation in order to accomplish what you want to accomplish, your sale essentially.
Yeah, and Eric, the saboteur, the last category you spoke about, I think in this with social media, with Google reviews and Yelp reviews, that is definitely something to look out for. And I know Ashna is going to be speaking about some of that stuff later today, but man, does that happen day and night.
It does. And when we're filling out the business model canvas, you have to understand that all of these people have different values. Some may not, they're not really going to make it as a customer on your canvas. And in fact, it's not like you're going to have, you know, customers based on each of these, but we just need to understand who your customer is. Quick example of this. Here we go. This is maybe an Oculus. I don't know other brands, so I'm not using other names. But here we go. So who is which type of customer? This is just a fun, play in your own minds on this. Here we go. The first one. Who is this? Is this the economic buyer? Nah, probably not. Probably not. Maybe this is just the end user. I don't know. But so maybe this is the economic buyer. Maybe the first picture is the influencer or even the recommender. And then perhaps the parents are the economic buyer. Or maybe it was grandma. Maybe grandma said, here's money, kids. I want to see you on Sunday on virtual reality. So the point is, there could be all sorts of stories about which type of customer each picture is. Your job as an entrepreneur is to talk to people. Talk, listen, observe, find out what type of person it is that is going to be your archetype customer. This is a key word. We're going to get to this in a second. But it is not good enough to say, oh, I'm going to sell to everyone. Everyone around me is going to love this. No, we need to start our businesses by targeting the ultimate person, the archetype person that desires our product or service the most.
Eric, I know Ethan's going to talk about some of this in marketing later on this evening, but how do you do something like this in a new market? Right now there are less than 40 dispensaries throughout New York State. Certainly, New Yorkers purchase their cannabis largely illicitly right now, but can you do this type of customer research in such a new industry, and how would you go about it? Just very quick thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'm going to go to the next slide when I answer that. Excuse me. There's lots of ways we can do that, Ari. Depending on our business, first of all, there's all sorts of groups like Reddit or Facebook groups where people are just talking about things. But let's I like to be very specific, very granular when it comes to things. And if I have a specific product, maybe I'm making a hand cream. Well, who wants that? And maybe if they want this hand cream, this THC hand cream because it helps with arthritis, well, then maybe I should go learn about folks that have arthritis and just go find people that are taking the alternative. So one thing we can do is say, look, this is my solution, okay? Well, what are they doing now to solve the same problem, because we can go find them there and find out if our different solution helps in any sort of way. Um, Another thing I like to do, to be honest with you, is learn from others. Really, we have other states that have been doing this for a while. Try to read some statistics or some papers that have come out. Canada has been doing this for a while. There's some interesting uh, statistics out there and graphs about what types of what forms of THC edibles people want to take and what is the main reason people are actually taking them. But the point of all this really is finding Kayla, finding your archetype customer and understanding exactly why they want to take your product or service.
Yeah, Eric, I think that's a great point, and I remember many moons ago in 2013 when I kind of started my own journey into the cannabis industry. One of the first things I did was spend time in Denver, spend time in Seattle, which were really the cities at the time on the cutting edge of the legal cannabis industry. And I felt like I had a little glimpse into the future in what things might look like there. And we really have an opportunity to do that. You don't even have to travel so far. You can go to Massachusetts, you can go to New Jersey, you can go to Canada. I mean, right now in New York, there are many opportunities in adjacent states or countries. But that really is a great idea. And for folks who are seriously considering opening a retail dispensary, visit the dispensaries in New York. They're not adult use, they're not recreational yet. Go to New Jersey, go to Massachusetts, go to other states, visit them, just absorb the experience, and try to take the pieces you like, and you might have insights and things that you could improve upon. And we'll talk a little more about that later.
Yeah, I think it's a great practice to always look at competition. People always try to shy away from this idea and, really learn about what has made them your competition. What are they doing right? And then steal those things. Innovate on top of that. Differentiate yourself later. But back to customers, really, this is what we need. When I mentor companies, no matter what field they're in, and we talk about, hey, we're going after this new group of people, or we have this new product or service, it really is trying to look at someone and say, what is their age group? What is the motivation? What do they look like? I should be able to walk in a room and say, oh yeah, that person, that looks like your customer. And I don't mean that rudely, but this is solution sales in a way. You need to understand who they are so that we can market directly to them, right? No one as a startup wants to do those mass mailings. It costs unbelievable money and you find, two or three people. No, nowadays we need to be very lean with our funding and really do targeted marketing things, really defining the customer. So this is what I'm talking about. When you're sitting with maybe your business partners and you're trying to say, look, who are we going after, right? Eric says we should have our customers before we even open up the doors of our shop. He's right. Ask yourself these questions. Who are they? Who are our customers? How are they buying? Maybe your customers only want to use the Apple Watch or something silly like that. Or maybe they want to just use cash, whatever it is. What matters to them? Why are they coming into your store instead of someone else's? What makes them comfortable, or even better yet, emotionally attached to your business? Who influences them, right? This is a huge one, I think, especially with cannabis, especially because, at least in my opinion, I don't think there's really household names yet in many aspects of cannabis. And so there's room for so many influencers to help kind of steer certain companies to the mainstream. And then this idea of draw a day in the life of the customer. I love to just think about making a diary of your competitors' customers. What are they doing? What was the frustration? Where was their bottlenecks? What could be done better? How could you really make people say, "Oh, I want them to have my money"? You really have to understand, who are you talking to? You know, it, it, you have to come up with tests. Like it's not just I think they're gonna like me because I'm from New York. No, we really need to get a very deep understanding of what motivates our customers. So to really kind of show you this neat graph, this is what we call a bell curve. And to be quite honest with you, every startup I think I've worked with for the most part aims their company for the masses, that early majority, the 34%. But I'm sorry to tell you, as a startup, that is where you need to aim. The innovators, the 2.5%, that's where we're going to start, people, because what we're going to do is understand so well about our customers, their motivations, why they're doing this, that we are going to aim for the 2.5% of people that desire your product or service more than anybody else. That is the goal of every successful startup. Because in the end, it's all about how well do you know your customer. I love this picture, right? Really, how well do you know them? If you targeted geriatrics for whatever reason, now we're starting to really get specific, and we can be very specific in making sure that we are providing exactly the value that they desire.
And Eric, I just want to comment on this photo. I'll just share an anecdote with you. Is that in the early days, my must have been 2015, 2016 of the New York medical market, very conservative and strict regulations at the beginning of the market. The early data showed clearly that baby boomers were the number one age cohort
Mm,
of users. So, you're in the medical cannabis industry and you think cannabis and you're thinking 25 to 34-year olds. That's going to be the demographic. But that demographic is well served by the illicit market, who really wanted to come into a dispensary that was staffed by pharmacists, that had medical doctors involved, and that was sort of akin to a doctor's office at the time. It was this age cohort. That just was a lesson to me that you things don't always work out the way you planned,
right.
and you need to be nimble as your demographics change. And then, how do you talk to folks in this demographic? What do they want to hear? What services do they need?
Right.
And they're an important demographic. So that was an interesting learning quite early on in the New York program.
I love it. I think that's great. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to skip to this one. I want to show you a quick exercise in really figuring out the values that we offer people. I'm going to go through this slightly quickly, but it's something you'll be able to work on at home. Value proposition equals motivation, right? You've heard me mention a couple times tonight that you need to make your customers emotionally attached to your company, right? Every customer becomes emotional to a company when that company offers the exact value that they're offer after. I'm sorry. So some of the questions, what are the jobs our customers are trying to get done? What actually matters to them? And what am I doing to actually provide that? So we have this kind of a template to kind of help us work through this idea, right? So you can see for who has it, it's an ad lib. Remember those? I had those as a kid. Hopefully, I'm not dating myself too much here, but little ad lib fun. And then we put it together, and this is what it looks like. And this is made again from our friends at Strategizer. So I'd like to give them a little shout out. But this is how it works. Our THC infused hand cream helps those with arthritic hands who want to continue working by reducing pain and discomfort and increasing dexterity, unlike with aspirin or Tylenol. So this is kind of a very veridical or simple, raw way to start to get us to start creating sentences that express exactly what it is that we're positioning our company to do.
Eric, we have a quick question
Yeah.
here. Somebody wants to know if you would recommend having potential customers fill out some type of evaluation form or some type of survey to kind of test ideas.
Great question. I'm so glad someone asked that. No. No, we don't like those things. The best thing to do is to talk to people. If you're filling something out as you talk to them, which actually I wouldn't do that because gives people that psychologist therapist kind of feeling. Really, conversations with people. Zoom call second best, phone call third best, never email. Uh, but it's all because you want the ability to ask follow-up questions or to feel emotions or let someone actually drop their barriers.
Thank you.
So just to show you a quick positioning statement, this is Crest, so you can kind of see how they are playing customer segments and value propositions together. I'll read this quickly for those who may not be able to. For mothers, the target, who care about their children's health, the need or problem, if you will, Crest is the brand of toothpaste that is unsurpassed in protecting against cavities because it contains fluoride, unlike non-fluoride brands, and is endorsed by the American Dental Association. Kind of a trust trigger there. So very interesting use of customer segment and value propositions in order to create basically a positioning statement. So just in to try to summarize all this, because I know we went through a lot and we have a lot more of awesome, exciting things to go, step into your customer shoes, right? This is why we can't do surveys. Definitely no group surveys. That is a huge no-no. You need to learn empathy, strategic empathy, talk to people, learn from people, listen, watch, go see how they're doing what they do now. And it all starts by figuring out who is our customer. So how do we do that? Well, let's make some to-do lists as we're kind of creating our business model. What are the jobs our customers are trying to get done? Are they just buying cannabis before they go out to a house party? Or are they buying cannabis because they don't sleep at night? So really understanding what the job is. What are the pains? Is it literal? Is it that arthritis? Or is it something else? What are the gains? Could cannabis help someone stay at work so that they don't have migraine pain? Whatever the situation is, the jobs, the pains, and the gains. What are your customers after? There's all sorts of ways you can put that together. You can just write it on a piece of paper. There's customer archetype profiles. I believe we have these on the OG website. If we don't, I think you can just find them online. But if there's anything I really, really want you to take from my part today, or really just from today in general, it's all about the customer. And it's all about providing to them exactly what they desire, not what you've created and think they desire, what they actually desire. With that, I want to thank you so much. And I think we're going to take a super quick 5-minute break. And then we have absolutely exciting lineup of speakers. So if your pencils are not sharpened yet, they better be, because it's going to be awesome.
Thank you, Eric. We'll be back in 5 minutes, and we'll kick off the next part of the webinar with Nikki Cateman. Hey, Eric.
There we go. Hi.
Hey, can you just pull up the Google Slides?
And
And good evening, Nikki. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thank you for joining us again. What a pleasure to have you.
It is great to be here. Appreciate you and Eric asking me to join.
It's good. I'm still. It's great to have you back, and I always love seeing your custom Zoom virtual backgrounds.
We have to stand out, or we try to stand out anyway.
Absolutely. Eric, I'll just ask you to fast forward to Nikki's amazing background. Um, we are absolutely delighted to have Nikki Capeman, who is the Political and Communications Director of Local 338, at tonight's webinar. Tonight we are focusing on retail dispensaries and marketing. Nikki, we have over 100 entrepreneurs, cannabis entrepreneurs from really across the state of New York, downstate, upstate, southern tier, north, south, everything in between, and really terrific representation of state or city certified MWBEs from across the state. And Nikki, I know that you've been involved in the cannabis industry through labor for quite some time, and that you were really part of an important coalition of voices that helped spearhead and advocated for MRTA, the Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. So we really thank you for that. But before we get started here, um, you have such an impressive background. You joined a labor union. How do you go from that to getting involved in the cannabis industry? What does that journey look like?
It's sort of one that's unexpected, but a lot of fun. I can give a little bit about how I got to labor, and then it sort of transitions into sort of how labor came to cannabis, I'll say, if that works.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be
Great.
great. Please do.
Great. Thank you again. I'm really excited to be here. This program is doing really great work. And I was, as Ari and Eric alluded to, I have been here before, so I'm happy to rejoin this team. I am the Political and Communications Director of Local 338 RWDSU. We are a labor union that represents about 13,000 working people throughout New York State and parts of northern New Jersey. And I came to the local as an intern when I was a teenager. My dad had been a member of Local 338 in an industry that predates cannabis. Sort of the rest is history. So I've been with the local for almost 15 years now. I've been there through a lot, and particularly through the entire history of us coming to the cannabis space and working on cannabis policy. Sort of the origin story is that our international union, the United Food and Commercial Workers, represents cannabis workers across the United States and Canada. And the Compassionate Care Act, which was the legislation that created the medical cannabis program in New York State, had sort of been in the ether for a really long time. And around 2013, it looked like the state was going to be making some real progress on getting that bill passed. So we jumped at the opportunity to be part of the conversation. It was a moral obligation for us. I think everybody knows somebody who either has benefited from using cannabis or could have benefited from using cannabis, but couldn't access it because of the legal restrictions. So we came to this one because it felt like the right thing to do, but also we wanted to make sure that if New York was creating a brand new industry in our state, I used to say it's a once in a lifetime thing, but New York seems to be cutting edge on a couple of industries now. But if New York was creating a new industry, we wanted to make sure that the jobs being created in New York were really good jobs. And we had heard about some of the horror stories from our counterparts on the West Coast, which we'll call the first frontier of the exploitation that was happening with workers. And we wanted to make sure that that was not something that was an experience of anybody in New York. So worked with a coalition to get the the Compassionate Care Act passed. We continue to stay involved in the conversation and worked around regs. We partnered with a number of different groups to really work hard to try and get the medical program expanded. It was very restrictive. There was a lot of room for improvement. And then as New York moved towards full legalization, we continue to be part of the coalition, as Ari mentioned, of folks who are fighting really hard to get the MRTA passed. And we came from it as a stakeholder representing workers, and we wanted to make sure that a legislation that was grounded in equity and opportunity applied to also folks who are going to be working in the industry. So over the course of time that I spent in Albany working with partners like Ari, the folks, the cannabis team at Local 338 was working with workers, helping them join a union. And we currently represent about 600 workers. We'll represent 8 of the 10 current medical providers who are our registered organizations. And our members work from seed to sale, since those 10, the 8 of the 8 and the 10 companies are vertically integrated. So how did we sort of get to this number, and what have we done in this space? So we're really proud of the work we've done to really set a standard for what cannabis careers can and should be. Our members get, and this is all negotiated through union contracts and collective bargaining agreements. And our members have, quality wage increases, health benefits at no cost to them, a number of different workplace protections. We have a retirement opportunities for them. So what we're seeing in this industry particularly is, this is an industry that people are already very passionate and excited about. We've seen worker retention go up. We have a lot of folks who have been with their companies since day one. We have a number of folks who have moved up the career ladder because they've had the opportunity in the space to have conversations with management, with labor management conversations, to be able to say, hey, I have an idea of how to make this better. And we've seen folks go from working on the shop floor to now they're working with the company to set up facilities in other states. So it's a really exciting space to be in. But we were able to achieve a lot of this because of the labor peace agreements that are required, both that were required in the Compassionate Care Act and will be required in the MRTA. And I know folks get a little bit nervous when they hear labor peace agreements.
What is Nikki? What is a labor peace agreement? Why is it important if someone is working on opening a dispensary in the Bronx, for example?
Sure.
Do they need a labor peace agreement? Is that only for big companies? What is this whole labor peace agreement thing about?
So labor peace agreements are the one spelled out thing that everyone is going to need, regardless of what type of license they're applying for and how big their business is. And I usually like to sort of start with what a labor peace agreement is not, because I think people get confused because I recognize labor as an alphabet soup a lot of time. So a labor peace agreement is not a collective bargaining agreement. It does not mean unions coming in and slamming down a union contract. It doesn't necessarily even mean that your workers will be union on day one. It also doesn't mean that we're going to demand who a business hires, right? That's something that we want folks to do, although we'd love to make sure folks are hiring locally and giving opportunities to the communities they're working in, but we don't mandate that. You get to hire whomever you want. What a labor peace agreement is, so it's essentially, it says that the workers in the union will give up the right to strike, economic boycott, and other sort of interferences in exchange for the company recognizing and participating in neutrality. And what that means is they won't interfere if workers want to join a union. They'll create a space for the union to be able to engage with the workers. And it basically removes the often what happens with intimidation and retaliation that prevents workers from really deciding for themselves on whether or not they want to join a union. We have a standard document that we use that we actually have refined a little bit based on some feedback we've gotten from a number of different folks who can qualify for a social equity program to make sure it's fair to businesses of all sizes. But it's a standard document that we both parties sign, and you can include that with your application. What we've been doing is we've been and I can drop my information in the chat, is we've been trying to set up conversations as soon as possible, since it is something that everybody will need. And we've been having a quick conversation. We sort of go through the more nuances and details of what our document says. We get to know each other. I like to think of a labor peace agreement as an opportunity to build relationships. Our obligation is protecting workers, but we want to make sure that we're building a sustainable cannabis industry in New York. And we also, I also think of the labor peace agreement basically as a binding commitment to uphold the National Labor Relations Act, which protects workers' rights.
Excellent. Nikki, I should say on the Q&A, you have some fans here, and I'll just read what's coming through. My LLC has already engaged with Nikki, and we have obtained a labor peace agreement, which will be a requirement for the license application. It was super easy and informative. So that is some feedback that we are getting. I will also, mention that kind of just on a personal and professional level, I had the opportunity, I think it was back in 2015 or 2016, to sign the first collective bargaining agreement when I was the CEO of Vireo Health of New York with Local 338. And I think that was extraordinarily important for the future of Vireo. Working closely with you guys, we wound up attracting more talent, retaining our current talent, offering amazing health care and benefits to our employees. And I'd like to think that that was really a win-win. And it would seem like, oh, healthcare, benefits, that's easy. It may be easy in other industries. It's not easy in the cannabis industry. And I just want to thank you. You guys have always been great partners for us, Nikki.
Absolutely. And Ari, if you don't mind, I'll jump in here. Just add one other thing too, is, I think folks get nervous about costs increasing when it comes to union benefits. One great thing about us is our healthcare is provided through a incredibly well-managed health fund. And because we're a nonprofit, we're not a health insurance company that has a huge overhead. We are able to offer rates that are significantly less for what you get on the open market if you did want to provide healthcare for your workers.
Yeah, no, that's huge, Nikki. And I see that Nikki shared in the chat her contact information and an important website, cannabislpa.com. We'll also be sending out an email after tonight's webinar, and we're glad to include any information you'd like us to, Nikki. We have a special feature in this webinar where we do interactive quizzes. So I'm going to bring up a labor quiz that we designed especially for this segment of the program. And
gotta love pop quizzes,
And it should be on your screens right now. And I ask you to just take a moment to answer these questions. Nikki, I don't know if you're able to see these questions.
I can. Those are good questions.
And you're going to have to keep us honest, and we're going to turn to you to answer these questions.
Sure.
Let's just give our participants a moment or two. I see some of the responses are really flowing in right now. So let's see that. Nikki, why does Local 338 get involved in things that are seemingly as obscure as cannabis regulations, for example? Why do you guys think it's so important? Why have you become so involved in that?
I think there's a couple of reasons, right? There's a moral obligation around cannabis, right? We like to we want to make sure that we are caring about the issues that our members care about. And cannabis is one, right? Because of just the medicinal properties. Our members live and work in communities that have been impacted by cannabis prohibition. So it's just sort of part of our mission to care about these sort of values that are deep to our members, and trying to make change legislatively that will help folks. But we knew sort of what was happening on the West Coast in the cannabis industry, at least in the early days when the program was getting up and running. And we were really wanted to see, it's really like, I made the joke about once in a lifetime, but it is once in a lifetime to get to be part of a conversation about building an industry and building it correctly and building it in a way where workers are part of the conversation. And it was just felt like a natural fit for us to get involved in. And I think for we have been able to work with the state, work with our allies and community partners to make sure that workers won't be left behind in the conversation.
No, thank you so much. We're going to end the poll now, and let's take a look at this together. Nikki, New York does not require each cannabis company to sign a collective bargaining agreement. True or false?
That one is false. They require you to sign a labor peace agreement.
Thank you. Number two, if you sign a labor peace agreement with the union, all of your employees will be automatically unionized. True or
That is
false?
false. That is false.
All right. Unions cannot represent employers with less than 20 workers.
That is also false. We represent a number of small companies and other industries who have less than 20 workers.
Excellent, excellent. Nikki, it is always amazing to chat with you. Thank you for all the work that you and Local 338 have done in this industry. And we look forward to hosting you again. But thank you for spending a few minutes with us this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you to you and Eric. And please feel free to reach out to me. My email's there. And I look forward to connecting with you all soon.
Thank you. Take care. Great to have you. All right. I let in now. We will have Ashna take it away. Ashna, how are you this evening?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much. What a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
And Eric, if you just go to the next slide. All right, and we can see Ashna's impressive background. Ashna, you're a licensed pharmacist. You have a Doctor of Pharmacy degree, and you started your career in retail pharmacy, working with HIV patients, administering vaccines to customers, and somehow from working over a decade in leadership positions in the retail pharmacy world, you got involved in the cannabis industry. How does that happen?
Yeah, so I grew up in California and went to school in California, spent my first 10 years as a pharmacist there in San Francisco. And I'm going to age myself a bit here, but medical cannabis passed in California when I was a teenager. But I really didn't know about cannabis or knew nothing about cannabis until I went to college. And I think I was a little behind most people. I think a lot of people learn about it in high school. But once I did kind of learn about it a bit, I tried to do my own research on it, which was very limited at the time. And when I went to pharmacy school, I actually used to ask my professors about cannabis in general. And I remember asking one of my professors, what is so bad about this plant? And she had said to me, well, it's not so much the plant, it's probably just the pesticides they use to grow it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I thought that was very interesting. Fast forward, I started working in San Francisco as a retail pharmacist, and the pharmacy I worked for, really, it was a community pharmacy, and I knew probably 80% of my patients by name. And a lot of these patients were comfortable with me and comfortable talking to me. And many of them, especially my HIV or cancer patients, were utilizing medical cannabis, typically to help them gain weight. Um, and so a few of them would talk to me, and, one, they would just ask me, is this okay? And two, they wanted to know if it would affect any of their other medications. And at the time, I didn't have a lot of resources. I usually referred to dronabinol, which is, a synthetic THC, to do my best to kind of help these patients. And then at the same time, I was a preceptor for multiple schools of pharmacy, but mainly UCSF. And I had students all the time, and I would actually talk to my students about cannabis. And and it probably surprised many of them at the time. And I would tell them, I don't know exactly how this works, but it seems to be helping these patients. It seems to help them gain weight. It helps their appetite, and it helps them live longer. So whatever it is seems to be working. Um, a funny story was, I actually had a patient come to my pharmacy once, and she dropped off her prescription vial for a refill. She gave it to my intern at the time, and had left her cannabis in the vial. And my intern opened the vial and was shocked, and asked me, he said, what should we do? Should we call the police? And I was like, no, call her, tell her to come pick it up. It's fine. And it really surprised him at the time that that's the approach that I took. So things have obviously changed quite a bit since back then. And then fast forward, I moved to New York, and realized very quickly that pharmacy in New York was very different than pharmacy in California. Similar to cannabis regulations, pharmacy regulations vary quite a bit from state to state. And New York was maybe not as progressive as California. So I did maybe take a little bit of a step back career-wise. And I actually learned about medical cannabis through a pharmacy magazine that had an article on medical cannabis. They interviewed a pharmacist actually based out of Connecticut, and spoke about the medical cannabis program coming to New York, and stated that pharmacists were going to be required to work in the medical dispensaries in New York. So I took that opportunity to reach out, do some research, and reached out to the 5 companies that were licensed at that time. Nobody had actually opened a dispensary yet, but I, took the chance and reached out. And 4 out of the 5 companies actually did get back to me. And I was quite surprised by that. And, through a process. Oh, go ahead.
You had such impressive credentials. What's surprising about that?
I just figured everybody would want this job. So, the 4 out of the 5 reached out. I met with you and Dr. Stephen Dahmer from Vireo Health, and got hired as a pharmacist. And very quickly learned that my job was not going to be just as a pharmacist, because the dispensary had not even opened yet. And, from there, we went from opening 1 dispensary to 4 dispensaries around New York. And it was quite the learning experience for me. It was a lot of work, but a lot of fun. It kind of went by in the blink of an eye. And I quickly moved into an operations role as well. So not only was I working as a pharmacist, I was also working in operations at the same time. And as things kind of grew and expanded, my role really focused more on the operational and management side of things.
So Ashton, just to be clear, well, I think it's obvious from this conversation that we were former colleagues. It was a pleasure working with you for about 5 years. You ran not only the 4 dispensaries in New York, but you really helped launch and operate dispensaries throughout the country. So you were eating, living, and breathing dispensaries for a good 5 years. And I think that not too many people really nationally have the type of experience that you bring to the table, and your background as a pharmacist just proved to be super valuable, particularly in those medical first states.
Yeah, no, it was definitely interesting. It was a growing experience for me. Like I said, I learned a lot from the experience. But New York was kind of my home base, and yeah, there was about 4 or 5 other states that I was involved in as well.
So let's jump into this presentation here, Eric. Let's go to the next slide. Take it away, Ashna.
Yeah, so well, we're going to talk a little bit about retail dispensary essentials. So the customer experience, your dispensary team, supply and demand of products, and services that can be offered by dispensaries. So the customer experience is anything that affects a customer's perception or feelings regarding your dispensary business. And I really want to focus on the word experience here, as in just in retail in general. People have really moved from going into brick and mortar stores to really ordering things online. And so a lot of these stores have had to kind of evolve to get people back in their stores. And the way that they've done that is they've kind of moved away from just the transactional walk in, buy something, and exchange money process, but they've had to do other things. And I've seen things like a furniture store that has a bar inside of the store, so you can have a drink while you browse furniture. I've seen department stores that have pinball machines to attract people, or seating areas so people can relax. Um, a lot of businesses now have exhibits that attract their customers, or they hold events that attract customers. And it could even be something as similar or as simple as the restroom. If you have a cool restroom, people will talk about it and want to come to your business to see that. So we're seeing this a lot in traditional retail, and it's definitely something we're starting to see in the cannabis industry as well. So it's important to really kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Like, what are you going to do to really enhance your customer experience? But it's important to know that the customer experience doesn't begin in your dispensary. Most of the time, your customer experience is going to begin online, and usually people will look at your website or Google reviews or any type of reviews really before they come into your dispensary. So making sure that you have a website that is, clear, it's attractive, it's got enough information so that people know what they need, but not too much information where it's cluttered, is going to be really important. And then your Google reviews, you want to make sure that you're responding to your reviews, you're keeping up to date with them, because it is very important for most businesses now. I personally, if I walk into a business or go to a restaurant, I tend to read their Google reviews before I go in. Phone and email communication is another aspect that can really affect a customer's perception. So if someone calls, how quickly is their phone call being answered? If they email, how quickly are they getting a response to that email? And what is the tone on the other side? So are they getting a positive tone over the phone or over email, or is it a negative tone? If it's a negative tone, that person will likely never make it to your dispensary. Once somebody does decide to come into your dispensary, location and signage is really important. So, you obviously want to have a location that's convenient and easy for people to get to, and also where people feel safe. And once they enter your dispensary, the look and feel of the dispensary, making sure that people feel comfortable when they come in. And it's not going to be, you're not going to get just cannabis savvy customers. You're going to get people who are cannabis naive, who know nothing about cannabis. It's their first time, they're scared. You want them to feel comfortable when they come in. You have people that medical patients who will come in and maybe have to speak about some sensitive issues. So making sure that they're comfortable, as well as the cannabis savvy person who may know exactly what they're looking for. You want the look and the feel of the dispensary to make them comfortable, and for them to easily be able to locate what they're looking for. And then last, of course, is your dispensary team and how they interact with the customers. And this includes everybody. So even the person at your front door, if you have to have a security person at the front door who is maybe checking IDs before people enter the dispensary, you want to make sure that security person displays the same sort of empathy that all of your other employees in the dispensary would, because at the end of the day, the first person that your customer interacts with is going to leave a lasting impression on that customer and their experience. So now I'm going to talk about your dispensary team. So an engaged, motivated, and happy dispensary team leads to an overall positive experience.
Ashna, I'm going to rudely jump in
Nope,
here.
go ahead.
If you had to think back when you were managing a bunch of dispensaries nationally, what portion of your time was spent on HR issues, recruiting talent and retaining talent, and building the right team? What portion of your day was spent on those type of issues?
Oh, it was a lot. I can tell you, I felt like I had learned how to be an HR expert by the time I was done. Hiring is something that's an ongoing process. You know, training is something, especially back then, a training was always being developed and figured out. So that was always ongoing. Taking feedback from the team. We were in a new industry. It's a startup industry. Trying to take what we know from other industries and putting it together, and then getting our team involved, but getting feedback from our team as well was super important. So yeah, it was a lot of time that we spent on just HR issues.
Thank you.
So an engaged, motivated, and happy dispensary team leads to an overall positive experience. And part of, the way that you do that is hiring the right people. I don't necessarily think that you need to hire people who have cannabis experience, or even know a lot about cannabis, because those are things that can be taught, especially through your training programs. But you want to be able to hire people that maybe have customer service experience. You hiring people that can exhibit empathy, patience, understanding, is super important, because in retail, whether it's cannabis retail dispensaries or any retail, it's not an easy job to have. Not everybody comes into a retail setting in a very good mood, and so having employees that kind of understand that and can empathize with that is very important. And making sure that the people that you hire understand cannabis legality. So not everybody realizes that cannabis is not legal on a federal level. So being transparent with your interviewees during your interview process, about cannabis legality is important, because the last thing you want to do is hire someone who maybe didn't realize that. And if you invest a lot of time and money in them, and then they realize, oh, this is not legal on a federal level and I'm not comfortable with this, and they leave, you've kind of wasted a lot of time and money. So just being transparent with that up front is really important. And then it's important to understand that you're going to have turnover. Turnover exists in any retail setting, and it's not necessarily your fault, but it's, there's people who are going to school that might graduate and want to leave and change careers based on their education. People move. There is really a thing as retail burnout. I think they used to say retail burnout was 7 years. I think it's a lot less than that now. So you have to expect turnover, which means you're always hiring. Like I said, you always need to have people in the pipeline. And you want to have a nice balance of full-time employees and part-time employees, because if you do have people who leave, you can often utilize part-time employees to kind of cover shifts and things like that while you're getting positions filled again. You provide training. So training is super important. It's something, it really kind of is going to define how your employees are going to interact with the systems that they use and the people that they work with. So there's different types of training: online training, in-person, hands-on training, and then standard operating procedures, or SOPs. Your online hands-on training are really going to be, things like customer service training, training on your products, training on cannabis, how to use certain systems, software systems that you're utilizing. And standard operating procedures are a little more dry, but they're kind of more of like your manual of specific step by step on how to utilize certain products or software, or how to utilize or how to follow certain procedures. So those are going to be really step by step, but you really want to have a good, robust training program for your employees. And then a path to promotion. Having a path to promotion is going to help decrease your turnover. Not everybody wants to, and I would say most people don't want to work in the same position for the rest of their lives. People are usually looking to grow, and you'll hear that a lot when you interview employees or interviewees, that they're looking to grow with your company. So kind of having an org chart available to them and letting them know the different positions throughout the company, letting them know, giving them job descriptions so they understand what those positions are, what people do in those positions, and then providing that path to promotion for those who are interested. And also, being transparent as well. Not everybody's going to become a manager. Not everyone is going to move on up, because it depends on what's available, but keeping everyone informed of, here's the org chart, here's the path to promotion, and if something comes available, if you're interested, we want to know. Offering competitive pay and benefits. So you want to know what your competitors in the area are paying and offering. And it doesn't necessarily have to be cannabis competitors, dispensary competitors. This can be other retailers in the area as well. So it could be the local restaurant or bar, or a retail outlet. What are they paying right now, and what kind of benefits are they offering? And it's important to get creative, because you as a cannabis employer may not be able to offer the same benefits that the traditional retail employer can. So it's important to get creative with that. So just as
and that really gets to, and you've done amazing work in this area, employee engagement, right? How do you create an atmosphere where employees don't wake up in the morning and think about how they don't want to go to work, but they see work as a place they want to be. They see work as a meaningful activity. They see work as an opportunity to grow. How do you create that atmosphere?
Yeah, so employee engagement. So making sure that your employees are happy, giving them surveys, getting feedback from them. Things like suggestion boxes are great, making sure that they realize that, they really are the face of your company. And so taking their ideas and implementing them is important to so many people. And then obviously things like employee discounts are nice, employee recognition, perks that you can offer them. Swap, employees always love swag, team events, making sure that you're putting time and money aside for them to have their holiday parties at the end of the year. And then even if you're doing events for your dispensary, if you want to promote your dispensary and you're going to an event, take your employees that are interested in doing that. Maybe someone wants a day out of the dispensary and they want to go to an event. Give them that opportunity to do so. It really keeps them engaged in the business.
That's great. Let's go to supply and demand, and then to services. And just because we're a little short on time,
Okay.
take like a minute or so on each slide, because we still have a pop quiz that I'd like to that we'd like to feature here. So go ahead, Ashna.
All right, perfect. So supply and demand, product selection. Eric kind of spoke about this a little bit at the beginning, but really you need to know what your customers want and at what price. In general, flower is probably going to be 40 to 50% of your sales, followed by concentrates, edibles, and extracts. Things like topicals might be like less than 1% of your sales. But if someone comes in and they're looking for a topical, try to see if you can special order something for them, just to retain that customer. And then things like accessories are not going to be a big revenue driver, but you want to be able to make sure you're at least carrying accessories that complement the products that you're carrying. So if you're carrying vaporizer cartridges, make sure you're selling batteries that go along with them. If you're selling flour, make sure you're selling some lighters or some pipes or herbal vaporizers. So make sure that you're selling the accessories that do complement your product, so you're not sending people somewhere else to purchase things. Vendors, very simple. Create a relationship with your salespeople, create a relationship with your vendors. There are B2B platforms that are available and will likely be around in New York, so that wholesalers can place their products on these B2B platforms, and dispensary owners can then reserve the products. You probably won't be able to purchase through them, but you can at least reserve products through those. Promotions, customers love promotions. In the industry, it's very common to have promotions pretty much on a weekly basis. You want to make sure you're staying competitive and get creative. Promotions don't always have to be, 10% off of this or 20% off of that. It can be something like, we're going to donate X amount of money from sales of this product to this charity. People get excited about that stuff. So you can get creative and get fun with your promotions. Inventory management. This is an important one. You want to have a 0% shrink goal, and shrink is really the amount of loss you're willing to have in your inventory. Typically in a retail setting, shrink is usually going to be less than 1%, sometimes less than 3%. But in cannabis, it's easy to forget that this is still a C1 a drug, and it is important that you're maintaining a 0% shrink goal. If you are missing product, you really want to know why it's missing. You want to kind of investigate that. The last thing you want is any diversion. It's a big concern for community members. You'll see it in the MRTA quite a bit. Is people don't want cannabis from retail outlets being diverted to the illicit market or to schools or younger children. So inventory management is huge in kind of preventing those things, along with, internal theft and then inventory rotation. Just make sure that you're keeping things in stock that are not expiring, so you're not losing money in the process.
And last, services. And I know you've been involved really in everything here. Tell us about it. What should people be thinking about?
Yeah, so services can really set your dispensary apart, and they're also designed to provide the convenience your customers are already looking for. Home delivery, huge. I think that anyone who can offer home delivery should. We live in a world where people are used to getting everything delivered, but not only that. Customers who are already using the illicit market to get their cannabis are usually having it delivered. In fact, HBO has a series called High Maintenance. That's the sole purpose of that series, is based on a cannabis delivery guy in Manhattan. So you can't expect people to move from the illicit market to the legal market if you're not able to offer the same services that they're already used to. Your e-commerce platform, I spoke about that a little bit earlier. Making sure your e-commerce platform is up to date, product descriptions, pricing, and the inventory behind it need to all be up to date. The last thing you want to do is have somebody order a product and then you don't have it in stock because your website or your e-commerce site was not up to date. Loyalty programs, we see them everywhere. Everyone, your drugstore has them, your airline has them. It's not uncommon to see them in the cannabis industry. Everybody's got a loyalty program, and you have to remember it costs a lot more money and time to obtain a new customer than to keep an old one, or to keep or retain an old one. So a loyalty program helps with that. Payment options. Cannabis is not an all cash business anymore, so making sure that you offer cashless ATMs or ACH withdrawal apps in addition to cash is going to be important. Your return and exchange policy. I put this down as a service because return and exchange policies can really retain your customers or have them go somewhere else. So you want to make sure that you have a policy that is not so stringent that it's going to turn people off, but not so lax that people will take advantage of it. So finding that kind of balance of in your return exchange policy is going to be important, and also just keeping in mind that every situation is a little different. And then the last thing is product education. So this is a service, making sure that your bud tenders or your sales associates are well versed in all the products and that they're able to educate the customers, whether that customer is cannabis savvy or cannabis naive. They should be able to educate them. The industry is always evolving. The products are always evolving. Even someone who's been using cannabis for a very long time can be educated on something. So providing that product education, it also provides an opportunity for your sales associates to be able to upsell and cross-sell things in that process as well.
Wow, Ashna, that was absolutely amazing. I'm going to go ahead and launch a pop quiz here on dispensary management. Are you able to see it on your screen as well?
I am.
All right, so you're going to help us answer these questions. We'll just give folks a moment or two to answer these. Next up is Akili Parnell, who's going to talk about home delivery. Very excited about that. But as people submit their responses, Ashna, I know you work with so many cannabis entrepreneurs looking to open dispensaries in New York and in other markets. Quickly, what are some of kind of the key pieces of advice you give cannabis entrepreneurs today who are really interested in getting into the New York market?
I would say, it's important to understand this is not a get rich quick sort of scheme. It does take a lot of work, a lot of long hours, but it is a startup industry. So what that means is you're typically a startup working with a lot of other startups. So it can lead to some frustration at times because of the legality behind cannabis. But at the same time, if you're up for that and you are willing to put in the time and the effort and know that this time is probably going to pass with the blink of an eye, it can be a lot of fun and very rewarding at the end.
Yeah, that's great advice. All right, Ash, now we're going to end the poll here. People had 90 seconds and help us answer these questions. Google reviews are very important to a dispensary success.
True.
All right. A well-run cannabis dispensary can expect inventory shrinkage in the range of 1 to 2%.
I'm going to say that's true, but your goal should be zero.
Edible cannabis products like brownies and gummy bears are prohibited under MRTA.
False.
All right. Ashna, thank you. Thank you so much. You were absolutely wonderful and really appreciate you sharing your expertise with everyone this evening. And we hope to have you back on a future accelerator.
Great. Thank you so much, Ari. Have a
Thank
good
you,
night.
Ashna. Thank you. You too. Mr. Parnell, Akili, how are you, my friend?
Hey Ari, how's it going?
Thank you
Doing
for
well.
thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your time. It was great meeting you in person just a few weeks ago in New York City.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here. Maybe I'll see you some more this week at NJ Unpacked or some other events. But yeah, great time.
Are you in the Big App back in the Big Apple?
Yes, yes, I'm back.
Excellent, excellent. Akili, you have such a great background, such an impressive background. You have a master's degree in public health. You have a law degree from Washington University, one of the finest universities in the United States. What did your friends and family say when you told them, I'm going to work for a cannabis company?
Yeah, about half of them thought I was crazy, and then the other half was pretty excited and like, what does this mean? And probably both were a little bit scared, but now they're all pretty jealous and or proud that I made the jump. So it's just definitely been a crazy ride, but well worth it. And look forward to sort of working in this industry for the rest of my career. So
Do you feel like cannabis, when did you start? Was it 2018? When did you start in the industry?
yeah, basically like January 2018. So I started thinking about it, in the fall of 2017. I was like working at a law firm, and a recruiter reached out to me about getting into the cannabis industry and working for a company, which turned out to be Green Thumb Industries. But back then it was still private. It wasn't a ton you could just know about these companies if you weren't already inside and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I didn't know a ton about the legal cannabis industry other than I had some friends that had moved out of California way back in like 2014 to get involved, but they were always kind of like pushing the edges on things like that, but worked out for them too. And so it always kind of had an interest, but didn't exactly know how to get in. So I was excited to have found a pathway.
And no, that's great. And even since 2018, 2019, do you feel like cannabis has become a bit more mainstream in terms of people joining the industry and the way others perceive the industry?
Oh yeah, 100%. When I first left, I think, the partners and folks that I was working with were like, what is this federally illegal? Like, how can you still do this sort of thing? It's like, I feel like out of everybody in the business world, like lawyers are the most conservative. And if you ever have done a deal and you've hired a lawyer, you probably have seen that. And so when you put a bunch of lawyers together, it just gets extremely like sort of, it's this very risk averse environment. So, if you tell them you're going to do something that's like federally illegal, they're just like, how can you even do that, especially if they're not in the industry? So, but as the industry has grown and stuff like that, you see all those lawyers now, or folks I used to work with, like emailing me, like, hey, trying to do like client development stuff, like, hey, do you need any work done? So, the industry has definitely evolved and changed, and it's not as much like the Wild Wild West as it was in the beginning. And you see a lot of folks from those established, industries and Wall Street and everything else coming over into the industry.
Absolutely. No, that's a great. You have an amazing background. Let's jump into the presentation. Would love to learn more about Lantern, and I know that many of the entrepreneurs who are part of this accelerator program and who are online for this webinar, and those who are going to watch it on YouTube later, are very interested in the home delivery space, and you have some deep expertise there. So take it away for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the home delivery space is a huge opportunity here in New York. As there has been a huge underground opportunity for home delivery in New York. I think anyone that's gone to college or just, lived here has known that there's a huge market for delivery in New York. And that will be the same for the regulated industry. So I work for Lantern, which is essentially like the Uber Eats, or really it's the Drizzly. So Lantern was founded by Drizzly, the largest alcohol e-commerce and on-demand delivery platform, which recently got acquired by Uber in October. And so Lantern is basically the cannabis version of Drizzly. It was incubated by Drizzly, same founders, same board. It was launched back in 2019. I joined last summer. And so Lantern basically powers legal, medical, and adult use cannabis e-commerce and delivery. So what does all that mean? We create, the tech platform for you to go on, either your iPhone app, which is it's coming out soon. We don't have the Apple app out yet, but eventually you have that app. Same way you have like an Uber Eats app on your phone or Drizzly app on your phone, or you can go online and place an order for cannabis delivery direct to your home from a dispensary. So you go and you order it from a dispensary, and then you have a courier that will come pick it up. One of the benefits there's a lot of benefits, but one is that it allows you to shop at multiple dispensaries. Regulations permitting is different in each market, but whereas if you go and pick it up yourself, you're going to one dispensary, you're confined to just that selection. But of course, if you use an online delivery service, then you can pick up multiple things the same way you can with Uber Eats, where it's like, okay, I ordered something from Papa John's. They're telling me I can go to 7-Eleven and grab something too on the way and here else for a discount and all that stuff. And yeah, similar opportunities with cannabis delivery. And so, we don't actually hold any licenses. We just power cannabis delivery and e-commerce. We connect patients, consumers with licensed retailers. They control the pricing, payment, and all that stuff. So that's Lantern. My
Excellent.
job is, and it's the quick thing about the incubators, and then we'll get into like, how to operate a delivery
Sure.
business. I run our incubator programs. The same way we're incubated, we want to incubate other companies in the space, particularly social equity businesses, to empower social equity, create opportunities, and then also it helps create partners for us to work with. We work with a lot of independent retailers in addition to MSOs, and so that's what I'm charged with at Lantern.
And for folks who are interested in learning more about incubators for the New York market, is there a place they can go to learn more about that, Akili?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's nykannabisproject.org. You can go to that on the website, on Instagram. And we have an Instagram handle, we have the website, and you can go on there, submit an application. We're receiving applications right now. We want to work with as many people as we can. We just finished up an incubator cohort in New Jersey, incubating delivery applicants. Well, the dispensary applicants, the delivery applications aren't open yet, but we're working with them to get ready. Cultivators, pretty much any sort of licensed business. Here in New York, we're going to do that, everything, incubating every sort of licensed business that you might want to own or operate, in addition to brands too. So you have a brand concept and looking to introduce that brand into the New York market. We're working with those folks too.
Sounds like an amazing opportunity for entrepreneurs. If you share that information with us after tonight's program, I'd be glad to send that out to the entire email list so people can follow up with you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I'll definitely share that out. Cool. So next we'll talk a little bit about legal cannabis sales channels. So where does delivery fit? Again, you have your cultivators, your manufacturers. In some markets, you have wholesalers, which are in between the producers of products and then those that sell them direct to consumers. But primarily, you have your cultivators, producers of products, and then you have your retailers, which sell them direct to consumers. And then on the other side, you would have your delivery couriers who go and grab the product from retail stores and take it to customers. We sit in between the retailers and delivery couriers, which are it's a licensed business by the state of New York to go and deliver cannabis to consumers. But we just provide the tech and the platform. So some logistical aspects, sort of planning and things like that, in addition to the e-commerce platform. And so this is a huge and growing sales channel for cannabis. Around 35% of all legal sales occur online or through delivery. So not all of that is delivery right now, although that will continue to increase. The same way that you see more people buying food and alcohol and everything else um, through delivery instead of going into a store. But most dispensaries have, they take sales online. So you place your order online, you shop online essentially, and you just go pick it up at the store. And so that's an increasing trend that you're seeing where people are acquiring cannabis through online purchases and delivery. Next slide. And so if you're looking to get into the delivery business, there's some key considerations that you need to think about: business considerations, financial considerations, processes, SOPs, just to start. And so one thing is, are you set up to meet demand? New York's going to be a ton of demand. If you're interested in, obtaining a delivery license and setting up a delivery business, do you have what you need to set up that business? Do you have cars? Are you able to go and lease cars? Do you have a space to park those vehicles? Do you have the capital it takes to outfit those vehicles? You need to develop a driver hiring pipeline. You got to have a certain number of drivers. You have enough capital to pay those folks, especially initially before you really make any of the money that you use to get started back. And what are your hours of service going to be? What could be your geographic coverage? Are you going to be like a sort of local delivery courier only operating in one part of Manhattan, or are you going to operate throughout the entire city? Who's going to be responsible for your driver awareness and marketing in your market? Another big thing is the payment structure. Typically, and it's different in every market, but typically you'll see dispensaries pay a certain fee to basically turn on delivery and make delivery available to their customers. And then customers also pay a certain delivery fee the same way you would see with the Uber Eats app. So sometimes that can be a $5 fee, it can be a $10 fee, it can be based on the percentage or the sort of gross merchandise value, like the total amount of products that you're ordering. The fees can be based on that. And so you want to think about that and work with, the dispensaries that you're hoping will contract you to be a delivery courier. And then also think about, on the customer end, on the end customer end, what the pricing will be there too.
So
Another big.
let me just jump in with a question. I think it goes without saying that the delivery business has been transformed in the past 2 years across industries, right? Across retail, really. Um, with restaurants, increasingly, the restaurant itself is not delivering the food. It is Seamless, Uber Eats, and whatever other kind of local delivery apps exist, depending on your market. Where do you see the cannabis market going? Do you see the dispensaries themselves using a platform like Lantern to facilitate the deliveries, or do you see Uber Eats like companies popping up across the city, across the state, and offering delivery services to the dispensaries?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, I think ultimately, I think you might see a mix of those two trends for a while. I think ultimately, like 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line, ultimately you have like an Uber, facilitating the vast majority of, cannabis deliveries, providing the platform connecting the couriers with the retailers or with wholesalers in some markets where delivery couriers can just go and grab products from wholesalers and take it direct to consumers. It's going to be interesting in cannabis because, I'm also a retailer. And so I understand like some retailers not necessarily wanting, this boom of delivery in the beginning because it could impact their business if they're not, ready for it. And so, but ultimately, yeah, I see, I think the delivery trend across all sectors, all industries, is just going to, especially with, certainly in retail, is just going to continue. And I don't think cannabis will be an exception to that, but it may take some time before we get to the point where, I don't know, maybe half of all cannabis products are purchased through delivery. I think the opportunity for platforms like a Lantern is they could make the customer experience a little easier, a little bit more comfortable. There's still a little stigma around cannabis. Some folks, and maybe the amount of cannabis that you purchase or going into a dispensary may be intimidating sometimes for, more novice consumers. And so sometimes it's easier to just sit in comfort of your home and you can click on a page and look at it, go back, look at another product, do some research. There's no pressure, there's no line, and sort of figure out what you want. So I think that's another value too.
Yeah, I think the value proposition is just clear as day. I think of it in the food space. You take a small Italian restaurant in the neighborhood that can never really invest in technology, and suddenly they're rocking using the Uber Eats platform, and they're able to leverage a platform that tens of millions of dollars in R&D went into. Certainly makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. I think there's a huge opportunity for smaller mom and pop shops you've seen with food delivery to raise awareness of their products and offerings, and of course the big companies too may try to develop their own platforms. But at the end of the day, I think if you're a plant touching business, you probably don't want to spend all the R&D and money to develop a tech platform, especially if that's not something you've done before. And there's other folks out there that have already done it at the highest levels in other industries. So
I've done it, and I can tell you, if you don't have to do it, do not do it.
exactly.
um, okay, so just because we're running a little short on time, let's go to the go-to-market planning, which I think just is really essential for entrepreneurs here.
Yeah, 100%. So this is important for, pursuing the license, putting together your business plan, going to market. You want to think about your startup costs. Are you planning to buy cars? I plan to do delivery at some point as both a wholesaler and a retailer. And this is something that we're thinking about here in Illinois. Are you going to lease those cars? Are you going to purchase them? How many? You want to price all that out well ahead of time. Target partners. Which dispensaries will you target? Are you going to target independent dispensaries? Do you have a group of independent dispensaries that you might want to work with? I think in New York there's going to be a ton. So there's an angle there, but it may be easier to partner with chains. Maybe you can get the entire company on board with your platform. What order platform? This is a big one. If you're going to be a courier, what platform are you going to use? Are you going to use Lantern? Are you going to find another platform? Are you going to try to develop your own? Highly don't recommend, but some people do want to do that. That's something else to think about. You got to work that into your business plan. The value props. How are you going to differentiate yourself? It may seem a little harder to differentiate one delivery courier from another. At face level, it seems like maybe they're doing all the same thing, but can you be faster? You have more people, all that stuff. And then these other points, positioning. How do you want people to view you in relation to the other players and products? What's your messaging, your marketing? There's a lot of really clever and creative ways to brand and market yourself. Honestly, in similar ways that the underground couriers have done in the past. And so that competition will continue. And yeah, use cases, paint the picture of how you can make customers' life easier. At the end of the day, that's the big thing. You gotta make your particular value add clear, just not the value add of the service, but also you in particular as a business operator. And then focus on the customers. So, who are your customers? There's two customers. There's the dispensary, and then there's the end consumers. Those are your customers. And how many dispensaries are there going to be in the state? How many are going to be in your area? If you're a local delivery courier and you develop relationships with all the local dispensaries, say they're all mom and pop shops, and you're from the area and everybody knows you, then you probably have a pretty big competitive advantage. Who are some of the bigger dispensaries, as I mentioned? Do you want to, pursue those relationships? And what do they care about? Definitely want to think about that. What drives their business? How can you help dispensaries make more money? You don't just want to position yourself as a competitor to them, or someone that's going to, decrease their bottom line. And then for customers, as I mentioned before, find out data about who likes delivery, what kind of consumers would prefer to deliver through an app and have it delivered to their home, as opposed to those who would rather go into a store, and really market and focus on those folks. And then also think about, what are they buying and what do they care about? And so those are really important key considerations when putting together your business model, your marketing plan, your go-to-marketing plan. And if you get these things right, then you can be a successful delivery courier. And then touch on a few last things. How do you provide best-in-class user experience? That's both the app, but then also delivery courier and working with the app to make it clear we can deliver in this amount of time. Sometimes people choose different couriers because this one is 35 minutes on demand. This one you have to plan it. Maybe you have to place your order a couple days ahead of time or a day ahead of time, stuff like that. So your availability will be a big aspect of the consumer's experience. What will be your tipping policy? And then, of course, you got to operate well. You got to have your SOPs, and you got to execute order handling, ID verification, security, safety, all that stuff. It's very important. So you want to have that nailed down too.
Excellent. That was amazing, Akili. Thank you so much. We're going to launch a very quick cannabis delivery pop quiz here, and we're going to ask you for help in answering these questions. But as folks are answering these questions, look, you've touched on it. Everyone knows this. New York City may be the biggest illicit delivery market on planet Earth. I mean, this is a sophisticated delivery market. How quickly do you see the illicit market being replaced by legal cannabis?
Yeah, that's a great question. The numbers out there, I always question. I hear, 6 billion in, unregulated sales, and then, whatever billion in regulated sales. I don't know where they get the numbers from, but, eventually it will happen. New York is such a huge market. I think that the unregulated market will be alive and well for a while, but ultimately consumers will come over the same way they did with alcohol, because at the end of the day, you want to know where your product came from and that it was tested and that you can get exactly what you're paying for. And that's been a challenge, although New York has it down better than most. So yeah, I don't know, maybe, the next 10 years, you see the unregulated market, less than 10% or 20% of all sales, but that's probably aggressive.
We're going to hold you to that and check in with you in 2032. But right now, let's end this quiz and help us out here. Online and delivery purchase account for what percent of the overall market?
Yeah, about 30%, 35%.
Excellent. Tipping cannabis delivery drivers is strictly prohibited under MRTA.
So I actually don't know the answer. I need to go look at the regs, but
I believe it is false. MRTA is silent. We're going to have to see what the regs say. So I'm going to help out there a little.
Okay,
According to MRTA, cannabis could be delivered by cars, bikes, foot, none of the above.
I believe just cars. I don't know anybody that's doing other than
Right now it's cars, but it's going to be interesting to see what those regs say. Certainly in Manhattan and in Brooklyn and in other places throughout the city, maybe bikes, who knows? Maybe there's some minimum quantity that you can take or something, but the regs really haven't been written for 2 and 3, so we're going to wait to see what happens there. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope to have you back at a future program, and please share all of the incubator information that we can kind of pass on to the accelerator participants.
Absolutely, will do. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye, Achille. Ethan, good evening. You have waited so patiently, what feels like for days, but thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Of course, happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we have already gotten comments on people who really like your background. So
Yeah,
tell
exactly.
us about your background, Ethan. What
Well,
do we see
well,
there?
well, before I do that though, I just want to say, if I'd have known I was going to have to follow Nikki, Ashna, and Akili, I probably wouldn't have accepted going last. But yeah, I just want to commend everybody else on their presentations. Great job to you guys, and that was really awesome for me to get to watch those presentations. So
Oh, well, it's amazing to have somebody of your background and expertise here. So
yeah.
so thank you for joining us. So what is your background?
So this background photo here, I wish it was real. It's not real, obviously. This is the photo of our cultivation facility in Florida, in Lake Wales, Florida, Central Florida. This facility is about 150 square feet of canopy. It's a 33-acre campus, like in total, but it's got it's expandable up to 400,000 square feet. So it's pretty massive. It's sort of our most impressive cultivation facility that we have in our company, like company wide. So I tend to try to use the background for, but not just to make an impression and sort of just look cool, I guess. But it's if I'm having a call with the Florida people, I'll put this one on. If I'm having a call with the Massachusetts people on, I'll put on a Massachusetts photo, and it's my feeble attempt to be virtually present as much as possible. So, if I'm on a call with our CFO and he's up in Toronto, I'll try to put on my Toronto skyline photo in the background just to make him feel like I'm actually there with them. It
That
doesn't work, but it's
No, that is great, and I just want to let participants know that we're going to go like we do often. We're going to go into OT for about 10 minutes or so, and with Ethan's presentation. But Ethan, really, my first question for you is, how did you go from a career in marketing in the alcohol industry and apparel to cannabis? Is that an easy transition? Is that an obvious transition? How did that play out in your own career?
yeah. So it was pretty easy, but I mean, I'll go all the way back to my very first job was with a company called Volcom. I was with this particular company for over 20 years, and it was essentially my first job out of school. And for me, it was a dream job. It was amazing to work in the action sports industry. I grew up, skateboarding and surfing, and doing art, playing music, smoking weed, doing like all of the sort of cultural aspects of what that lifestyle entails. So it really was a dream job for the most part, but it was amazing to be part of this company at this particular stage in the evolution of that industry. Apparel is a lot of fun. So is footwear. Fashion in general is super fun. But I was able to eventually get out of that industry and transition into alcoholic beverages. I got into craft beer. I'm also very passionate about craft beer. I love craft beer. And so it was another dream job for me to go and work for a company called Stone Brewing. By the way, I'm sitting in California right now. All of these these work experiences up to this point that I'm having, this time with you guys right now has been in California for the most part. I'll get to the point about the Ianthus in a second, but very much a Southern California sort of coastal lifestyle that I've been able to enjoy for the majority of my career. Stone Brewing was no different. Getting into sort of another lifestyle type brand there, but again, manufacturing craft beer at scale really gave me sort of exposure to a more traditional CPG marketing approach. Of course, there's tons of available data within footwear and apparel, and same goes for alcoholic beverages as well. So I had the luxury of having amazing, access to Nielsen data and IRI sales data, and really a robust sort of, traditional sort of clinical marketing experience. And in terms of transitioning out of it, a lot of people in alcoholic beverages, because it's a regulated industry, they get targeted by recruiters looking for people for cannabis jobs, and I was no different. So there was a handful of opportunities that came through, and at the end of 2018, I got a call from a recruiter who was looking to fill a role in a California cannabis company called Flocana up in Northern California. and it was, I was just fascinated with this business model. This company was really, really compelling for me to kind of, to make the jump from beer into cannabis. This was it seemed like the opportunity of a lifetime, and which it was. And so it was a pretty high flying first year in the industry. The California market came to a screeching halt at the end of 2019. This company was facing some adversity. So at that point, I made the transition and came over to Ianthus, who oddly enough, was employing a bunch of other people from Stone Brewing as well. So it was almost a class reunion of sorts when I came back and joined that team at Ianthus.
That's great. That's great. What an amazing and impressive career. Let's jump into the marketing presentation.
Yeah, sure. Let's keep it moving. So I threw this quote in here. I don't know if you guys have heard of Peter Drucker before. He is one of the foremost business gurus, somewhat of a legend. So he's one of the most quotable people as well. So he's written, really influential books, and I recommend everybody to do some research on Peter Drucker. I'm like a notorious Drucker dropper. So every chance I get, I'm going to drop a Drucker quote. And this one, to me, again, it's not to bag on the other functions. This isn't like, I don't like to highlight this to say like, oh, marketing is superior to everything, but it does kind of reinforce this notion that, some of the other speakers earlier touched on, which like everything you do essentially is marketing. Like your reputation is marketing. How people perceive you, the experience, the interface, all of the touch points that people have with the brand. And the more that you can focus on this aspect of running the business to do something, innovative, I think of disruption, do something disruptive and innovative in terms of changing the way, you go to market or the type of products that you're offering or services that you're offering. I think this is really just reinforces and underscores the point that, again, why do you want to be a business, and how are you going to be successful? And it goes back to, these two aspects, which marketing and innovation. And marketing, again, it's so huge. It's a massive idea. And essentially, for the most part, it's just about knowing where you fit into the context of sort of, people's behavior and what's important, their value systems, what's important to them. Yep, just clicking through these. I'm going to try to whiz through these too, by the way. I'll try to breathe as much as I can. So core marketing, some of the slides are pretty dense. So
we don't want any physical harm to come to you. Take a drink of water, breathe. We're in no rush. Go ahead.
All right. Thanks for that. I need that. So I appreciate it. All right. So core marketing pillars, pretty straightforward stuff here, but these are sort of the building blocks or the pillars on top of the foundation for what we're doing, running the business. At upper left, we got brand in New York. By the way, Ianthus, the company I work for, I run marketing sort of on a national basis and have all of the regional marketing teams kind of reporting into me. Those regional marketing teams are working on a whole handful of different retail brands. So we're doing retail, we're doing cultivation, we're growing, we're processing, we're selling to the wholesale channel, we're selling to, direct to consumer through retail. It's sort of across the board. We're operating in 9 states and have at this point 33 open dispensaries. So in New York specifically, we have 3 open dispensaries, one in Staten Island, one in Brooklyn, right across from Barclays Center, and then one in Hudson Valley. And we're in the process of opening up a 4th, and we're also in the process of building out a cultivation and processing facility up in Warwick. So just to give you guys a little context, the B brand is our retail brand that we're using in New York. There were plans to consolidate and sort of create a monolithic retail brand. When I first started at this company back in early 2020, those plans fell by the wayside, as they sometimes tend to do. And so what we have here is just sort of calling out the retail brand, which is B, and then a handful of the product brands that exist within sort of our product brand portfolio. On the right, we've got product. So product is obviously what we're selling. We got whole flower now in New York, and we've got a handful of other really amazing brand offerings on our menu. We're not creating our own products yet in New York, so it's all third-party brands. And really, this is such an important aspect of what matters to people. I mean, ultimately, like you can try to create the best experience, but at the end of the day, can you get great product, and is the product worth the value? In terms of value exchange, we've heard a lot about value exchange today. I mean, people just want great product for the money, and I think that's probably the biggest hurdle that all of these markets face in terms of competing with the illicit market, is that you're still getting great quality for the price from the illicit markets. And it's not until that, not until the point that you can actually offer product that's as good, or if not better, than the product that you can get illicitly, it's actually more convenient to buy it illicitly. So menu design, like all of this stuff, like just like what are you offering is super important. Obviously the channel piece here, I'm addressing just the retail piece because that's what we have in New York currently. And then of course, just reinforcing everything that was said previously around the consumer, really knowing and having a surgical laser focus on who your consumer is. You can't appeal to everybody. You can't be everything to everybody. So the more, the more targeted you are in terms of developing these personas and these archetypes, and, really developing these avatars, really their muses, and the more specific you can be in sort of identifying these folks, the better you're going to be able to reach them. Click, please. Marketing mix. I'm not going to read through all this stuff, but this is sort of just, again, touching on some of the sort of long-standing principles. Everybody's heard of the 4 P's of marketing. I think a few years back they expanded it to the 5 P's of marketing. That's what these are across the top row here. Product, we talked about, what are you selling? How much are you selling it for? With price, how are you going to get people to incentivize them to buy it, and build awareness around it? Where are you going to offer it to them? And ultimately on the people piece, again, just to reinforce everything that was already said, how are you going to engage in a conversation and really build relationships with the people that you want to sell to? Let's keep clicking here. Okay, so this is where things get a little bit sticky and a little bit technical. There's so many things that normal industries can do, to reach people once they've identified who they want to reach. And these days you can be so targeted. Marketing is almost it's almost not fair, because you can basically cyber stalk people and just troll their, like, not troll their behavior, but you can follow exactly what they're doing online and create lookalikes. And in traditional means, it's quite easy to address a very specific market, which is social media advertising. Unfortunately, because the fact that it's still federally illegal, it's off the table. So traditional, social media advertising is off the table. You can't advertise on YouTube. You can't advertise on Instagram. That said, this is still where the majority of the conversations are being had. I'll speak about that in a second. But that's just on the limitations on sort of the advertising side. There's a lot more to that too, by the way. I'm skipping over this pretty quickly, but there's also a ton of limitations and restrictions and sort of specific elements to things such as packaging. So here's just a list of a handful of things on the right. Not going to read through these. You guys can kind of tick through these boxes or these bullets on the right. Yeah, go ahead, Ari.
Ethan, on the social media front, what are the consequences of a brand or a dispensary not adhering to the social media guidelines? What if somebody wants to be particularly aggressive and they think Facebook and Twitter's policy just don't make sense and they're not aligned with the times? What are the consequences?
Well, firstly, I mean, there's an approval process for paid media, so they won't even allow you to even try to put paid media out there on the socials. But if you are being overly promotional through organic means on your social media channels, you can get your account shut down. You can get posts taken down. It happens all the time, happens pretty constantly. It happens for reasons that are still like sort of mysterious as to why. So we can think we're doing things absolutely by the book and above board, and still have posts taken down mysteriously by Instagram or whomever is doing it, and occasionally accounts can just get outright just deleted, and that happened to us recently in Florida. We lost about 30,000 followers down there and had to just start rebuilding from scratch. which is
Not
super unfortunate. Yeah.
not easy. Not easy.
Well, it's not easy, and it's really it's hard to know what you can and can't do as well, and some of it's trial and error, and you have to learn the hard way. And again, it's just it's a really strange sort of realm of there's a lack of clarity, and there's just like it seems random at times that sometimes accounts get shut down. It seems random as to which posts they choose to take down as well.
But this is really part of being in the cannabis industry, is that that could happen to you any day. You can be a dispensary in Brooklyn, you can be building a great neighborhood dispensary, building up your Instagram followers, your Twitter, your Facebook, and boom, it disappears. And you just have to be ready for that. Maybe Elon Musk will change a few things at Twitter, who knows?
Yeah, he would be the one to do it. But I mean, and there are, I'm making it sound like it's totally arbitrary. There are certain things that you do definitely want to not do, which is just be overly promotional. You don't want to use words like, sale, this is on sale, or just be overtly sort of sales driven. Sure. On the platforms. What you want to do is just have a conversation. I mean, you can talk about product, but just don't talk about selling it.
Exactly.
All right, so this is, again, kind of ticking through some more of just this boilerplate kind of stuff, but, I've got a couple of hands holding phones here. This is just reinforcing the point that so much of these communications are going out through mobiles. I mean, people are still, interacting with brands on desktops and tablets and whatnot, but I mean, the vast majority is on the telephones. So really optimizing your content and all of your messaging for mobile first. And in many cases, it's mobile only, really. So customer acquisition, this is just, top of the funnel stuff. What can you do to kind of get more exposure for your brand or your business? Dialing into some of the web traffic and conversion. I got another, slide in here that talks a little bit about tracking KPIs and just performance marketing and doing things like, just watching how cause and effect on certain things that make these particular channels perform better. And then retention and loyalty. I think this was covered well enough earlier. Customer relationship management. There's platforms out there. There's loyalty programs out there. We primarily use SpringBig as our text platform provider. It seems to be pretty widespread out there. A lot of the other big MSOs also use SpringBig for their loyalty programs. We do as well. So, again, how do you hit these people with the relevant, pertinent messages, kind of in the moment when the purchase behavior is high? That's really sort of what the code we're cracking on a regular basis. And then social media, again, we could talk for hours about how important social is to connecting with consumers. So this is kind of reinforcing more of the same, building trust, all the stuff, again, previously mentioned through the course of the presentations earlier. Just delivering on a promise, really sort of, what is the expectation out there and how do you continue to deliver on that for people? Being transparent, being authentic, value exchange, this whole idea of reciprocity and kind of showing up to a transactional conversation with a high degree of empathy. I think these are all really powerful principles, and it can't really be, it can't be reinforced enough. So I think, again, at the end of the day, we're people dealing with people, and it's easy to turn marketing into a bunch of math, especially e-commerce just turns into a bunch of binary sort of things that you're just crunching numbers and tuning dials on it. But at the end of the day, the more you can connect with people and really have a good relationship and an honest conversation, that's what you want to continue to do. It's so old school, and it's just your reputation. It's just, how do people perceive you and how do they react to you being in the world? And, word of mouth marketing it's the same as it's always been. It's just at scale now because people have, supercomputers in their pockets. So it's amazing. Leveraging the data. Hold on real quick on this one. I just want to call out the fact that there are a lot of data points out there. People like to talk smack on sort of BDS and headset because it's not like Nielsen quite yet. There's some timing lags. It doesn't have total coverage, but there's still a lot of information out there to be leveraged here. I spend a ridiculous amount of time on Reddit, and I encourage all of the marketing people that I work with to spend as much time on Reddit as possible. You have to take it all with a grain of salt because, again, Reddit's where trolls live, and people love to hate on the internet in general. But there is so much amazing information out there on Reddit, and just people are just more than willing to share like their opinions on just the state of the industry or this product or that product. Like you can get really good directional data sort of by just listening. So there's some great subreddits for New York as well, which I'm sure everybody on the line is already tuned into. But if you're not, I can provide those as well. It's pretty easy to find. So let's click through, please. Yeah, so this one, again, lots on the screen. I've got another Drucker quote here. Sorry, guys. I couldn't help myself. This is just about just tracking KPIs and just, again, like a lot of this stuff, you can really tune into performance aspects of what transactions online and email performance, text performance, conversion, open rate, all this kind of stuff is really fun stuff to kind of keep a close eye on. It almost gamifies the whole aspect of marketing to me. Again, it does become pure math at that point, but it does reinforce this point that you want to be able to measure this stuff and sort of establish like if the things that you're doing are actually working or not. So this idea that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it really kind of rings true as it relates to, in particular, the online commerce aspects of the business. And lastly, I dropped this slide in here again because just to kind of to throw a little inspiration here at the end. This for me is, again, I get so excited about getting to come to work, not just because I get to, run a background like this, which by the way, like to be able to walk around in this room, it's just like, it's amazing. So I guess I'm just wishing I could do that every time I see myself with this picture behind me. But this idea, so there's so many resources out there. I mean, my point of this slide is just to say, even at this stage, I'm getting pretty old these days, and I've been, in doing this stuff for a long time, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning every single day. I'm learning so much. I love it. I still read books. I still listen to podcasts. A lot of these books, these guys or gals will write these books, and they'll go on a promotional tour, and you can just go on YouTube and basically get the Cliff Notes versions. For those old enough to remember Cliff Notes, you can get the sort of abbreviated version of these books just by watching their lecture tour things. But Purple Cow, Seth Godin, this is like an all-time classic. It's just about being disruptive and kind of violating status quo to make an impression on people. This is just this is just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the type of material out there that you can get access to really educate yourself. So yeah, it is absolutely a journey. It's never done. It's a journey that never ends. So, and again, I think it's super important to be able to kind of appreciate what you're signing up for, especially in this industry, which, people talk about this industry, the pace of it kind of creating this dog-ear paradigm. And it's intense. There's just so much entrepreneurial spirit. And it's a lot of fun because of the fact that there's a lot of it hasn't been established, and you can kind of write the rules as you go. I mean, outside of obviously the highly regulated government rules, beyond that, it's pretty wide open. So with that, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Sorry I went so far over.
No, that was great. And I feel like we need to have you back to deliver a master class. Just in the last moment or two, I'm going to launch a quick cannabis marketing quiz. Ethan, there's so many people who are participating in this accelerator program who dream about launching their own brand, opening their own dispensary, and when they think about competing with big public companies, sometimes it seems like a daunting effort. What is your advice to them?
Well, first, don't be intimidated. There's, I mean, it can be intimidating for sure. And again, it's okay. It's okay to start small. You don't have to feel like you have to have everything worked out. So I do feel like, again, part of this entrepreneurial quality of this is the fact that, despite that you've got people like myself that come in from other industries, it's almost like starting over again. It is truly like the startup mentality where a lot of the rules from other fields or industries don't necessarily apply, and you kind of have to start from square one again. And it is absolutely it's refreshing, really, to think that, hey, you don't have to like come with any preset education or notion. Like, you can really come and have a creative idea that you can bring to life and bring to market, and actually make people's lives better by having something new in the world.
That's great advice. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to end the poll here and help us out here, Ethan. Who is the marketing is a distinguishing, unique function of business quote attributed to?
Oh, Peter Drucker.
All right. Now that Elon Musk has purchased Twitter, cannabis advertising is permitted on the platform. True or false?
False.
Okay, because cannabis is federally legal, dispensaries are prohibited from marketing their products by email. True or false?
That's false.
All right. Ethan, it was so amazing having you. We will bring you back for a master class. You are absolutely a fountain of knowledge, and thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Ari. And you flatter me way too hard. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Ethan. And as always, Eric from Binghamton University's Koffman Incubator, you will have the last word, my friend.
Oh, I thank you so much, Ari, and thank you all of our guests today. Bottom line, it's all about customers, and I don't think there's anything I can say better than that. So we look forward to seeing you. Wow, is next week our last one, Ari?
It is. It is.
Wow, tell your friends to register. It's going to be amazing. We'll be talking about money, right? Kind of important. So
fundraising,
so
business plans. Us. That's right.
And just thank you. And we'll see you in 1 week, everybody.
Have a good night, folks. Thank you so much. Take care.